gentlemen. Today we're going to hear from Ethel and Charles Haynes. Ethel Haynes came from the South. She was a teacher. She became a prominent teacher in the Long Beach area, and she also helped her husband in real estate, Charles Haynes. Ethel has chosen Zadie Cannon to represent her. Zadie is in her 8th year as part of the cemetery tour. Zadie is a retired auditor with the city of Long Beach. Since retiring, she's turned her acting hobby into an acting career and is a card-carrying member of the Screen Actors Guild. Zadie can be seen in commercials and several television shows. Charles Parks was chosen to represent, Al Austin.
How's Parks?
I'm sorry.
He keeps saying Charles Parks. It's okay. He'll get it.
Al Austin was chosen to represent Charles Haynes. He's a city council representative for the 8th district. Mr. Austin has worked in aerospace and government and is today making a guest appearance as Charles Haynes. So please welcome Ethel and Charles Haynes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming out, everyone. I really appreciate you being here. Well, my name is Ethel Haynes. I was born in 1918 as Ethel Turner. That was about 53 years after the Civil War. And, you know, segregation and racism was still alive in the southern parts of the United States at that time. I graduated from my town's colored high school and went on to attend Prairie View Normal Industrial College to study to become a teacher. Teacher was a respectable profession for a woman back then, but I was really interested in real estate. Well, when I wasn't thinking about it, I ran into this fine, handsome, gorgeous, strong, intelligent man by the name of Charles Haynes. We were married in 1940. Well, the country was at war, and a lot of men were signing up to serve, to fight for the United States. And even though many branches, or all the branches of the armed services were segregated at the time, Charles felt it was important that he serve his country. So he enlisted in the Army. Well, eventually the war was over, and Charles was honorably discharged in 1945. Then we moved to California. Guess where we landed? Long Beach. Well, we got to Long Beach and quickly found out that segregation and racism was still alive here as well. We could only live in certain parts of the city. Well, one part of that area that we were allowed to live in flooded all the time. You may be familiar with it. It's like a PCH in between orange and cherry. Another part of the area we were allowed to live in had a train running right down it from the Long Beach harbor to Los Angeles, making noise at any time of the day or night. So here we go. Here's a description of our living environment. Flood, train noise, train pollution, and restricted to just one particular area. Charles obtained a job at the Naval Shipyard as an electrician. I went back to school and attended Long Beach State and UCLA for practically nothing. All I had to pay for was my books and a parking permit. We found a home at 1339 Lemon. It was very comfortable and a great investment. We also found us a good church home, Christ Second Baptist Church. Now the church had already been established in the community. As a matter of fact, it was incorporated in 1907. Charles was an ordained deacon. I sat on the mother's board. Charles was Sunday school superintendent and church clerk. He was a very trusted man, and I served on many of the auxiliaries and ministries of the church. Well, I'm going to fast forward you guys to 1962. Oh, by the way, after Charles got that job at the shipyard, he went on and found another job at the General Motors plant in Southgate. And while he was there, he went to real estate school. He studied hard, passed his exam, and in 1947 received his California real estate license and began to sell real estate. Well, he was doing very well, and I was very impressed with him. Matter of fact, I followed suit, and I went to real estate school and got my license as well. We became a team along the way. Like in 1962, Charles was doing very well, selling a lot of real estate. There were a lot of other things going on in the country at that time, too. Now, I don't know if it was because the freedom riding or the Supreme Court said schools had to be desegregated, or because young, brave students were sitting in lunch counters trying to get them desegregated, or what. Or it's just that I think my Charles was a darn good realtor and businessman, because that year, Charles was elected to be on the Long Beach Board of Realtors. First black man ever to do that. In 1963, the Long Beach Unified School District decided they wanted to expand the PCC campus of Long Beach City College. So about 120 black families were displaced. Well, the good news is they no longer had to live in the flood zone. Charles helped many of those families find places throughout the city. He was fair with what he did. A lot of realtors weren't fair. They kind of used scare tactics to say that if you had other people come live into your community, that your property value would go down. Charles didn't do that. He was very prominent, very influential, and very fair. Well, I'm going to share a story about my friend Tina. Tina had worked at Douglas Aircraft during the wartime. I called her my Black Rosie the Ripper. Well, she was looking for a home. She had found a job at another company and was looking for a home outside of the central area. Had run into a lady, a black lady that lived in the community she was interested in, and she shared with Tina that there were a couple families there. Well, my Tina, being as feisty as she is, said, well, now there's going to be 3 families here. She moved in, and some people were a little surprised about that. There was this one particular lady, a white lady, that came across the street banging on Tina's door, saying, well, I have a house over here for sale if you want to let anybody else know if they want to move in. Well, I kind of prayed for that lady, glad I wasn't there, because Tina was a little feisty. Well, my Charles kept on doing very good in his real estate business. He had offices throughout the city. I kept teaching. You may know about the one office. It's located on Atlantic and 17th Street, right across the street from Howard High School. There was a young man that described my husband, and he said, call my Charles a trailblazer. And that's right, that's exactly what he did. He opened the door for so many young men to become, and women to become realtors in the city of Long Beach. Well, Charles was on a lot of different boards in real estate, both right here in the city and nationally. In 1978, he was in Hawaii at one of those conventions, driving, and died from a heart attack. I so hated to see him go, because he didn't get to see, not all of the fruits of his labor, but I got to see a lot of those men and women grow in the real estate business. I wish he could have been here. Oh, Charles, you are here.
I'm here, Ethel.
Well, I'm so glad you could make it.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. I was sitting in here listening to you tell our story and talk about how much you admired and loved me. And you know the feeling is mutual. You were my rock. And the single best accomplishment that I ever made in life was actually marrying you. Every man needs a strong woman to keep him going. Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
You know, that story you were telling about Tina reminds me of an event that occurred back in 1958 up in Dixie Knolls. A family, a black family, a doctor, physician. His name was Dr. Charles Terry, I recall. He and his wife Ruby bought a home up in Dixie Knolls. The home was located on Cerritos Avenue, just near Carson Street, if I recall. And it's a beautiful 9-bedroom colonial. They needed a home for their family. And back in that day, 1958, there weren't any African Americans living in Dixie Knolls. The only black folks in Dixie Knolls were the help. They were the maids, child care providers, the gardeners, that type of thing. And many of the residents in the area weren't really receptive to having a black family move in at that time. They were concerned that their property values would plummet. The Haynes family, the Terrys actually received threats. Today they would be known as hate crimes. Some were veiled, some were more direct. Prior to them moving in, they actually were prior to them moving in, someone hooked up a water hose and plugged it into the mailbox, into the foyer, and flooded out the home, destroying all the floors. Now this family spent $50,000 on this home, purchasing that home, and that was a pretty good price back in that day in 1958. It was fair market value. Some of the neighbors went as far as offering them $60,000 not to move in. And so ultimately they spent $7,500 repairing the floors. They eventually moved in. And guess what? Property values stayed the same. It didn't go down. And today, as I understand it, that district, that area is actually represented on the city council by a black man. His name is Al Austin. And like me, he's good looking. And he's taking care of business. He's doing things. I'll bet you a lot of people don't know that I actually ran for city council when the city moved towards district elections. I ran for the 6th district. I can't even remember the year, but I ran in the very first election and I lost.
Right.
I lost that election in the 6th district to a guy by the name of Jim Wilson. He went on to become the very first African American to serve on the city council in the city of Long Beach. Today I understand that the Bixby Knolls area is very diverse. It's thriving, has a thriving business community. It has a monthly art walk known as First Fridays, where families from all over the city and the region come and enjoy art, entertainment, and restaurants, and community. And I really wish I was alive today to really meet Al Austin and see what was going on in the city of Long Beach. It makes me proud to know that we actually integrated the Bixby Knolls neighborhood.
We did good work. I just want to thank everyone for coming out and hearing our story. Thank you so much.
Hey, Al.
We have